What's going on, world? IG, YouTube, what's going on? Look, I got about 15 minutes today, and I just have one question. Have you failed you? Go ahead and drop your name, where you're chiming in from in the chat. I just want to know, have you failed you? I'm looking at YouTube, I'm looking at Instagram. Have you failed you? What up, Mike? I'm going to talk about a few things here today. Not going to be long, but I want to know, have you failed you? See, well, my membership ended with REI 90, but I'm still paying for the rest of the. All right, reach out to the team, and they'll get in touch with you. The REI 90 is the live version is a year, but you should still have access to the portal or the curriculum. I want to know: have you failed you? Here's what I mean. So I was reading an article. I actually came across two articles, and I actually just put this in my Instagram. And I'm looking at two screens. I got YouTube here, and I have Instagram. And so the first one is that there's something called the lower upper class, and that lower upper class, I personally think, is one of the most dangerous positions to be in financially. And this is people who make anywhere between 75,000 to about $250,000. Okay. This is called the middle upper class. These are people who make anywhere between 75,000 to 250. Statistically, most of them live check to check. They make just enough to live the lifestyle they want, but at each increment of them making more money, they usually increase their expenses. Car note goes up, then the insurance goes up, they buy a bigger house, they're taking broader trips, they're doing more, excursions from dinners to happy hour. They're wearing different clothes. I've been there before, so I know. But the lower upper class is a very dangerous position to be in financially. And so I often ask, if you are in that position, okay, for people in that position, whether you are or you not, here's the question I want to ask. What do you think is the average amount saved for a person after 40 years in a 401k? What do you think the average person has saved in a bank account, in a 401k, tucked under a mattress, in a shoebox? After 40 years, what do you think the average person has saved? Kim says 20,000. So after 40 years, what do you think the average person has saved? Rose said 10,000. Somebody else just said 50. They would have to be real life hermits. Think about it, because most people, if you're living check to check, they aren't able to save into a 401k. See, so for a lot of people who don't know my story, in 2013, I actually used to own a tax franchise. Okay, I bought into a tax franchise. Um, Mr. Optimistic said my uncle had 100,000 saved. So in 2013, I invested into a tax franchise, and it blew my mind how many people filed exempt. It blew my mind. If you don't know what exempt means, this means you don't have any taxes taken out of your paycheck. And I remember it was a young lady who came to my office. She was referred to my office to have me do her taxes. She had made about $89,000 that year. Okay. And I'm filing her taxes, and she owed about 14 grand after we filed her taxes. Okay. And she cussed me out. Let me just say, she cussed me out. She said, "How in the four-letter word do I owe the IRS over $10,000 and last year I got X amount back?" And I said, "Well, you filed exempt." She said, "My what's the people name? My HR lady said I could file exempt." And I said, "Your HR lady is actually right. You can do whatever you want, but just know you're going to have to pay that money back." Well, I needed all of my money throughout the year. And that was so eye-opening for me because that let me know that even though so many people have this elusive goal financially to make $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $250,000 a year, they're in a position financially where it is going to be hard for them to escalate up their financial ladder, which is why so many people who are in that lower upper class, people who make between 75,000 and 250, they usually have no money in savings. Let me say that again. The average person in that lower upper class, this is someone who makes between 75,000 and 250,000. I spoke with a gentleman about 3 weeks ago. Okay. And I'm going to actually tell you what the average person has saved after 40 years. I'm going to share with you. Okay. Now, you would be very surprised to know that I talk to so many people who say, and I'm talking to people like in their late 30s, early 40s, who don't have more than 20,000 saved. They're in their 40s. I was once I, when I stopped working in corporate America at 35. I had $25,000 saved up. No, excuse me. I stopped working at 33 in corporate America. I had about 25,000 saved up. Mind you, I had been working since I was 11. My first job was a golf caddy. Think about that. Some people have been working since they've been 15 years old and they're 40 and they don't have more than $20,000 saved right now. I really need people to really think about how scary that is going to be as you get into the latter years of your life. I really need you to understand how scary that is going to be. As you get into the latter years of your life, because when you get to the age of retirement, keep in mind, you plan on living another 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So let me ask you the question again. After 40 years of work, that means blood, sweat, and tears, how much do you think the average person has saved in a retirement fund? After 40 years of working, how much do you think the average person has saved in a retirement fund? I'm saying 20, 10,000. I'm saying 20,000. Now, let's take the middle of that, okay? Because I saw somebody put 50. Let's just say it's $30,000. Okay. Let's say the average person after 40 years has $30,000 saved up. Okay. Let's do some math. So we're going to take $30,000 and divide that by 40. That means most people are saving $750 a year. Think about how scary that is, people. People are logging off because this is their story. This is their story. See, I understand these type of things scare people. It scared the living hell out of me because I understood that I told myself I refuse to work until I'm 90. I refuse to work until I die. Let me tell you what the actual number is. Per Vanguard, per Vanguard, which means you can actually go and research this information and pull this data. After 40 years of working, the average person has $88,000 saved. The average, which means some people are higher, some people are lower. I just saw somebody said their uncle saved 100,000. I would like to know where are you on pace to hit? See, if the average person has $88,000 saved up, that means they're only putting away $2,200 a year. $2,200 a year. So my question to you all is, no, this is not even liquid. This is what's in a this is what's in a retirement fund. This is what the average person has saved inside of a retirement fund. They're saving an average of $22,000 a year. Now, let me tell you what they said. Yeah, I agree, Monica. That's no money. But let me tell you what they said you should be on pace to do. This number is going to make you sick. They said if you actually do your company's match for the people who have company matches, you should have $242,000, which puts you on pace at what the max allowable amount is that you can contribute in a 401k that is tax deferred, which is $6,000 a year, which still isn't nothing. So if you actually put the max in, okay, if you actually put the max in, you should have 242,000, which is only $6,000 a year. Now, let's just say your average expenses, okay? Let's just say your average expenses, okay? Let's say your average expenses are $5,000 a month, okay? Thank you for the badges, Cal. Let's say your average expenses are $5,000 a month, okay? Now, wow, the compound interest does a bit different with 3 times than 2,200. Now, let's just say your average expenses is $5,000, okay? And you got 200. Let's say you maxed out your 401k. You got $200,000 saved, okay? Now, 5,000 a month times 12. Let's calculate that. So 5,000 times 12, that's $60,000 a year. So let's take 242,000 and divide that into 60,000, and let's see how many years you can live off of that money you have saved up. You have 4 years to live off of the money if you max out your 401k. How scary is that? If you max out your 401k, you have you have 4 years max. 4. So now, who's a brave soul who wants to come on and share what they have saved? If you live to see it. I agree, Cal. People can't retire at 66 no more. So ask yourself, how much do you have saved in a retirement? How much is your portfolio worth? If you could liquidate everything you have right now, what is your worth? Your car, if you have a house, how long could you survive after retirement? See, here's the thing, and I wrote this down. You can't fix a problem with the same level of conscious you use to create it. See, the reason I talk so much about mindset, because nothing in your life will change until you change your level of consciousness. And there's 4 levels of consciousness. I did a whole training on this earlier in the year. Actually, I've done it several times. There's 4 levels of consciousness. Let me see if I can actually pull it up for you. There's 4 levels of consciousness. You cannot fix any problem in your life, whether that's your money, whether that's your relationship, whether that's your faith, whether that's your your family dynamic, your personal dynamic. You cannot fix any problem in your life with the same level of consciousness. And so, this is why I often say if you do not change the way you think, you will never amass more in life. It's impossible. See, once you've learned that life is all about data, life is all about data. It's about data, numbers, and science. Life is all about data, number, and science. See, whenever I'm launching a new marketing campaign or when I'm doing business, I can completely remove the emotion based off of data. I know if I invest X amount of dollars, it should give me X amount of return. I don't question whether I'm going to make that investment. See, some of us been having red flags with people in our lives for the past 5 years, but yet we still continue to make the same mistakes because we don't know how to evaluate data. Why is that? Because we're trying to fix the problem in our relationships, in our finances, with the same level of consciousness that we use to create the mess. So anytime something in my life changes, I always look at where was I at consciously when this happened, when this took place. And then I have to figure out where I was at so I can increase my level of consciousness so that I can fix the problem. See, a lot of people put themselves or are trying to figure out why they're still poor. A lot of people are trying to figure out why that trucking business didn't go right, why that credit repair business didn't go right, why that wholesaling business didn't go right, why you keep joining program after program after program after program and wonder why it's failing because you're going in with the same level of consciousness. So you spent your last $1,000 to 10,000 to 25,000. It doesn't matter the price you spent because you're going in with the same level of consciousness. So if you still think brokenly, you will get broken results. See, some of the failed relationships is you. It's not always the other person. I don't care what TikTok tell you, what TikTok advice you tell you. Some of the broken partnerships in your life is you because you're going in with the same level of consciousness that got you into the mess that you're in. I'm actually trying to find this training I did in my journal about the 4 levels of consciousness. I think you all need to hear this. So I'm going to say this again. You can't fix any problem or circumstance in your life with the same level of consciousness. What's up, Katina? I know you probably remember it. You always be reminding me of the trainings that I do. Let me see if I can find it, y'all. It's somewhere in this journal. Well, I'm getting your actions can never surpass your consciousness. It goes hand in hand. Very good point, Cal. Absolutely not. Your actions will never surpass your subconscious. Because here's the thing. Here's something that a lot of people may or may not know. You actually have 2 voices that you hear. You have your outer voice. That's the voice that I'm projecting and speaking to you all with. So when you're speaking to yourself and you can hear yourself, or even if you put your fingers in your ear and you talk, you can still hear yourself because that is your outer voice. But see, ultimately what happens, the inner voice is what keeps our level of consciousness down. Let me tell you what that inner voice does. Oh, you can't do that. You ain't tall enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not brave enough. You who gonna listen to you? You don't need to be no influencer. You don't need to be trying to do real estate. You don't need to be trying to start a business. See, that inner voice, that's the most dangerous one. But see, what we need to start making sure that our outer voice projects louder than our inner voice. And see, once you understand that level of consciousness, until then, your actions won't mean nothing. Because here's what's going to happen. You're gonna start that business. So you got the action, but your level of consciousness is still so low that you're gonna start tricking yourself and telling yourself that you can't do it. You're gonna start tricking yourself that you can't do it. I'm gonna find this for y'all real quick before I get off of here. I promise y'all it's in this journal. I promise y'all. I always take notes on everything I'm gonna talk about. Also, don't let the panic of the world stop your vision. See, I can remember, I actually just watched an interview with the CEO, or excuse me, the co-founder of LinkedIn. Okay. I actually just watched an interview with the co-founder of LinkedIn. And he said that when they were first launching LinkedIn, they told him it wouldn't work. And they told him it wouldn't work because I think this was around 2003. And they said, you know what? Why don't you just sell B2B products? Nobody in the B2B community is going to want a social media platform. We already have Facebook. We already have MySpace. And so what he decided to do was, thank you, Kevin. He decided to listen to his outer voice. And as Kevin typed it on YouTube, I actually just found it. He listened to his outer voice. He didn't let people manipulate his inner voice, because see, sometimes we let other people manipulate the inner voice that we hear. Oh, maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'm not tall enough. Maybe I'm not pretty enough. Maybe I'm not this, or maybe I'm not that. See, the four levels of consciousness. State number one, this is the lowest. Unconscious incompetent. Unconscious incompetent. This is, you don't know that you don't know. I mean, so many people who try to start a business who know nothing about business, and they don't know nothing about business. Just enthusiasm on fire. And I actually like working with people like that. But sometimes their ego gets in the way. Go start watching these interviews with a lot of these entertainers who've been wildly successful, and they'll tell you their ego was the biggest thing that put them in a position to potentially crash and burn. Unconscious incompetence. That's the lowest level of consciousness. Next is conscious incompetence. You know that you don't know. You know what you don't know. It's like, I don't know that, but I'm willing to go and find the information. That's conscious incompetence. This is people who are coachable. I love working with people who are conscious incompetent. It's like, you know what? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out the information. Like, there was something I had to learn new about marketing and AI. So this last week, I paid somebody to learn it. I'm conscious enough to know that I don't know. And I value my time. I'm not about to waste 25 hours to go to watch a bunch of YouTube videos. My time is much more valuable than that, because the faster I can get that information, the faster I can implement. And see, in business, one of the top reasons people fail, or why they bought a job, is because they don't delegate and they don't leverage automation. As long as you're the one that has to touch the widgets, you will work 80 hours a day. Third level of consciousness, unconscious competence. Don't know that you know. You don't even know that you don't know it. You think you do. That's, again, the ego. Unconscious competence. But see, here's where you have to remove the ego in order to get to this fourth level of consciousness. Here's where your circumstances in life start to change. Here's where my clients who are like, you know what, Will, I don't know, but I'm willing to leverage data and science and math to know. I'm willing to change my circumstance, and I'm consciously competent enough to know that I need this information from you. The fourth level of consciousness is conscious competence. Until you get to a level of conscious competence, you will continue to stay in the same position financially. You're going to retire with $2,000 a year that you've saved up, and you still got to live another 40 to 50 years off of that $80,000. Let me leave y'all with this. This is going to trip y'all out. I want I want y'all to write this in the chat, or Katina. I know she always got my back. I appreciate you, Katina. There's something called quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Let me tell you what quantum entanglement is. Quantum entanglement is essentially where two things can happen simultaneously that can impact everything. Let me say that again. Quantum entanglement is where two things can happen simultaneously but will impact everything. Let me give you an example. So imagine two versions of yourself. You have today you and you have the future you. Okay? So I have the today Will Roundtree, and then I have the 50-year-old Will Roundtree, or the 55-year-old Will Roundtree, or the 60-year-old Will Roundtree. Okay? So now, and you can also call this the slight edge theory that Jeff Olson talks about. Okay? Now, when it comes to quantum entanglement for your life, you have two paths of today and the future. Okay? But you got to start, but what makes that determination is today. Here's what I mean. Let's say you decide that you don't want to retire poor. Let's say you decide you're tired of being in the lower upper class and you can't afford to do anything. See, that's your inner voice telling you you can't afford it. I used to tell my family members and relatives, stop saying you can't afford something, because I see them trips you taking. I see the I see the shoes and the bags and the meals you're going to. Stop saying you can't afford it. So the future you and the today you, what you choose to do today or don't do today will impact the future you and the today you. Also, the past. Here's what I mean. Why do you think poverty is still passed down from generation to generation? Because of the quantum entanglement that our parents subjected us to. The lack of decisions of them not investing, the lack of them selling Big Mama house, the lack of them spending all of our money in the crack era or whatever they did impacted our future. It impacted us today. And then you're going to continue to carry that same quantum entanglement on, and now your kids are going to be impacted. You're going to have to work until you die. You're going to die with nothing. You're going to be doing GoFundMe's. You're going to be doing all of these things because of the quantum entanglement that you're in today. Because see, if you don't act today, that choice doesn't just hurt your future you, it will reach back to your past and impact and affect everything behind you. Let me give you an example. Has anybody on this on Instagram or YouTube, has anybody ever dealt with somebody in their family dying without life insurance? Okay. You thought Paw and Big Mama had some money put up. Then you find out that they had a second on their mortgage. The house had a reverse mortgage attached. None of the cars was paid off. They done took out personal loans and co-signed for Teresa and Beverly and Tyrone and Ron and Amber. They done took out these personal loans that they didn't tell us about. So now we can't afford to bury Big Mama or Paw. Their house ain't worth nothing. They got tons of debt, no life insurance, no will in place, no nothing. And so now everything that they lived for has reached back and impacted everything that they lived for 40, for 70 to 85 years. It's now hurt their past. And now you have to clean up their mess. And while you're cleaning up their mess, now your inner voice start telling you this is tough. Man, you know what? I ain't going to invest in nothing. I ain't saving my money. YOLO. I don't want to leave. So now you've just infected everybody else in your future. That's quantum entanglement. Let me tell y'all something. When I saw the average person has $88,000, look at Aretha Franklin. Absolutely. Aretha Franklin wrote her will on a napkin. They still fighting. Just look at all of the entertainers who died. James Brown died broke. James Brown. I can keep going. A lot of our living legends, excuse me, a lot of our legends died poor. Then you start seeing people from our generation who passed away, who've made all of this money and they're dying with nothing in place. Quantum entanglement. Quincy Jones did it the right way. Yeah, he left 80 million. I mean, he if you haven't watched the documentary Quincy on Netflix, I highly recommend you do. That'll motivate you to change your level of consciousness. That'll motivate you to get up off your lazy ass and stop binge watching all. Like when people be asking me, have you seen this TV show? I'm like, how do you have time to watch all of this TV? No wonder you caught up in a financial quantum entanglement. Because you know the latest television shows out. I'm gonna start asking people how much you got in your 401k. Now divide that by the number of years you worked. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You've been working for 13, you've been working for 15 years and you got $12,000 in a 401k. That should scare the shit out of you. Excuse my language. That should scare you because you have to figure out how you're going to have to continue to keep living until you die with you putting away only $600 a month. It gets to the point you begin to think you crazy by telling people the truth. I used to think that way, John, but no, I know I'm not crazy. And the reason I know I'm not crazy because the crazy people are the one asking me to borrow money to pay their bills. Look, let me share something with y'all. I remember one time one of my cousins, she called to ask me to borrow some money. Okay. And one of my cousins used to always brag about how many dudes be at her and this and that. I'm like, look, you know too many people to be poor. Same thing with the brothers. I done met dudes who done name drop. Oh, I done stood up on the couches with 50. I done been in the same room with T.I. I done I used to chauffeur Macklemore. You got $45 I can borrow? You should be ashamed of yourself. But that's when I started to learn that people's level of consciousness is still low. And so we have to increase your level of consciousness because you're still trying to fix what's broken in your life financially with the same level of consciousness that puts you in that position. And until you're willing to do that, good luck. And that's why you keep joining program after program thinking it's going to work. And this is also one of the reasons why people join programs that are blatant scams. Blatant, blatant scams. Like I would like here's one thing I always tell people because like real estate is getting a bad rap right now because of the envy and Caesar thing. And I tell people fundamentally, I knew they went after people who were lower conscious thinking when it came to money. They may have had some money, but here's why. There's no way in the world if they're telling me a property that they're going to buy is selling for 250,000, but they're asking me for 250,000 when I know that they only got to bring 20% to the table. So fundamentally, there was some flaws there. And so this is why, John Pete, I don't feel crazy. I try to come on here and tell people the truth, but there will be people who will fight me on what the truth is, which lets me know that there are people who want to believe a lie so bad that they will continue to endanger their quantum entanglement. They will continue to try to fix problems with their low level of consciousness, and they will panic because they let the world dictate their vision. And until you are willing to fix all of those things, nothing in your life will ever change. And so, y'all stay tuned. I'm actually putting together a new community where this is all we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you information to help you get out of these quantum endangerments. And it's not going to have anything to do with real estate because I know some of y'all are still scared of real estate. That's fine. But here's the beautiful thing I'm going to leave you with real estate. When you learn how to do it the right way, one property already surpasses what you're going to have saved in a 401k. So it behooves you to at least get one investment property and just sit on it for the rest of your life because you will have more money than you will have from working for 40 years. But because there are people's level of consciousness is so low, I'll leave it at that. Rico, let them know. John Pete said, Mr. Roundtree, your information changed my life. Thank you. I appreciate that. So y'all keep y'all notifications on. I actually might go live every day this week. Y'all send me some DMs, drop me some information in the comments. Y'all let me know what y'all want me to talk about. But until then, let's increase our level of consciousness. And y'all already know the drill. I'll see y'all at the top. Let's go.